The voice on the other end was careful trained. "Are you Marlene Whitaker?" I didn't answer right away. The name felt heavier when a stranger said it. "This is Officer Grant with Savannah Police. I need to ask you about 3 children." My fingers tightened around the phone. "They were dropped off at a residence on Maple Street about 20 minutes ago." Maple Street? I hadn't lived there in 8 months. "They're safe," he added quickly. "But they're not with you, correct?" "No," I said. The word came out flat. "They shouldn't be anywhere near that address." There was a pause. Paper shifting. A door closing somewhere near him. "The children told the homeowner you're their grandmother. They said you were supposed to be waiting." Waiting. That was the word Denise always used, as if I existed in a paused state until summoned. "How old are they?" I asked, though I already knew. 8 and 6-year-old twins. My breath caught. Milo. Jasmine. Jordan. The taxi left before anyone answered the door, he continued. The driver confirmed the destination was entered by the adult who arranged the ride. I leaned back against the counter. The room felt too quiet. "She put them in a taxi." The sentence broke in the middle. "They said their mother told them you'd be happy to see them." Happy. My throat burned. "I told her no," I said. Not louder, just firmer. I told her I wasn't available. Another pause. Longer this time. "The current resident didn't recognize the children," he said. "She contacted us immediately." Current resident. "I moved," I said. "Months ago." Silence again. Not awkward. Calculating. "Do you have their mother's contact information?" "Yes, thank you. We'll reach out to her now." The call ended without ceremony. No comfort. No reassurance. Just procedure. I stared at the dark screen in my hand. Somewhere across town, 3 children were sitting on a stranger's porch, feet dangling, eyes fixed on a door that never opened. They were waiting for a woman who wasn't coming. Not because she didn't love them, but because she had finally stopped being predictable. My phone lit up again. Denise's name flashed across the screen. I didn't answer. The silence this time wasn't guilt. It was gravity. The story you are about to hear is a work of fiction created by the Her Shadow Channel team based on real-life situations to convey lessons about family emotions and human values. All characters and events are illustrative. I used to think being dependable was something you earned, like a medal, like proof you mattered. Denise learned early that I would rearrange my life without being asked. She never announced plans. She floated them lightly, already certain of the outcome. "I'll drop them off around 6, she would say, already moving on to the next thought. Not "can you?" Not "would you mind?" Just a timestamp. If I hesitated even for a breath, she filled the space for me. "You're home anyway. They miss you. It's only for a bit." Only for a bit meant overnight. Overnight meant the weekend. The weekend meant Monday morning drop-offs because something came up. Something always came up. I told myself it was temporary. That this was what good mothers did, even after their children grew up. I watched my calendar lose its shape. Appointments penciled in, then erased. Dinners postponed. A class I'd signed up for quietly abandoned because the twins needed help with spelling words and Denise needed silence. She never said thank you in full sentences. Gratitude came, folded into assumptions. "You're better with them than I am. They listen to you. You don't mind." I did mind. I just didn't interrupt. Once when I mentioned I was tired, she laughed. Not cruelly, casually. "You're retired." Tired of what? The words landed and stayed. I felt myself shrink to fit them. Babysitting became framed as help. Help implied choice. But there was never a pause long enough for me to choose. There was only momentum, and I had been pushing it forward for decades. I loved my grandchildren fiercely. That part was never in question. But love had started to cost me things I couldn't name without sounding selfish. So I didn't name them at all. When I finally began looking for a smaller apartment closer to the river, Denise called it a phase. You'll still be around, she said, already certain. Nothing really has to change. I said yes then too, out of habit, out of fear, out of the belief that love meant availability. That belief was already cracking, I just hadn't heard the sound yet. The phone vibrated across the table while I was buttoning my coat. Denise didn't wait for a greeting. So, quick thing, she began, voice bright rushed. Troy surprised me with tickets. Napa. Wine weekend. Networking. It's important. I stayed quiet, finishing the last button. I'll bring the kids by Friday afternoon, she continued. We'll pick them up Sunday night, or Monday morning if traffic's bad. The words stacked neatly, already organized around my compliance. I can't, I said. The silence that followed felt unfamiliar, thin, off balance. What? A short laugh slipped through. Mom, come on, I'm not available this weekend. Another laugh, sharper this time. You're not serious. I set my purse down. Sat. Let the moment hold. I already have plans. A breath hissed through the line. You can move them, no. The word landed cleanly. No explanation attached to it, no apology to soften the edges. You always do this dramatic thing before you cave, she said, patience thinning. Just say yes and stop making it weird. I'm not making it weird. A pause. Then the guilt arrived right on cue. They're your grandchildren. They've been asking about you all week. I thought you loved spending time with them. I do. My voice didn't rise. It didn't shake. And I'm still saying no. Her tone changed. Cooler. Calculating. So what am I supposed to do? Cancel everything because you suddenly decided to have a life that's not my problem. The words surprised us both. A sharp inhale, then a scoff. Wow, I didn't realize you'd gotten this selfish. I let that sit, untouched. You know what, she snapped. Forget it. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, half expecting it to ring again. An apology. A compromise. Something familiar. Nothing came. I picked my purse back up. My hands were steady. That surprised me too. For the first time, saying no hadn't cost me peace. I didn't know yet what it would cost instead. The quiet stretched longer than I expected. Denise didn't call back. No follow-up text. No clipped message meant to reopen the conversation on her terms. The absence felt deliberate, like a door left ajar, just enough to make a point. I moved through my evening carefully, half waiting for the familiar buzz of my phone. It stayed dark. At my new apartment, I set my purse down and stood there longer than necessary. No toys on the floor, no backpacks by the door. The space still felt borrowed, as if my old life might arrive late and claim it back. I told myself not to rehearse explanations I didn't owe. You did nothing wrong, I said aloud, testing the sound of it. The words didn't echo. They held. My phone remained silent through dinner, through the news, through the habit of checking the clock and counting how many hours until Friday afternoon, when Denise usually appeared without warning. I opened my calendar instead. The weekend blocks were already filled. Dinner with friends. A lecture I had paid for weeks ago. Small commitments I used to erase without thinking. I imagined her scrolling through her options. Troy being told to figure it out. The idea of inconvenience landing where it belonged. That thought brought relief. It also brought unease. Denise didn't like inconvenience. She avoided it the way some people avoid blame, by redirecting it. Still, nothing came. I lay awake longer than usual, listening for a sound that wasn't there. The house phone didn't ring. No voicemail chimed. Even the familiar irritation of being needed was absent. That was when it settled in. Not peace, not yet. Something tighter. A sense of motion held just out of sight, like a decision already made without me. I reached for my phone once, then stopped. Set it face down on the table instead. If she wanted to argue, she knew how to find me. If she wanted something else, silence was her first move. I stayed where I was. The number wasn't saved. I almost let it ring out of habit. "This is Marlene Whitaker." The voice on the line was calm, professional, practiced. "Ma'am, this is Officer Grant with the Savannah Police Department. I need to confirm whether you're responsible for 3 minors currently in our care." My hand tightened around the phone. "They were found at a residence on Maple Street," he continued. "They arrived by taxi. No adult present." Maple Street again. The name struck harder the second time. "I moved," I said. "I haven't lived there in months." A brief pause. Paper shifting. "They told the homeowner you were their grandmother. They said you were expecting them." Expecting. The word pressed down on my chest. "The taxi driver stated the ride was booked by their mother," he added. "The destination was entered intentionally." I closed my eyes. "I told her no," I said. The sentence felt heavy, but it didn't waver. "I told her I wasn't watching them this weekend." Silence. Not disbelief. Confirmation. "Do you know where their mother is now?" "Yes." "Would you be willing to provide her contact information?" I gave it to him. Slowly. Each number spoken aloud felt like another line drawn. "The children are safe," he said. "They're with an officer and the homeowner until we resolve custody." The homeowner. "She called us immediately," he added. She didn't recognize the children. I pictured them standing there. Milo holding himself rigid the way he did when he was scared. Jasmine pretending not to cry. Jordan asking the same question again and again. "When will Grandma come? I need you to understand something." I said, my voice low, "I did not agree to this." "I understand," he replied. "That's why we're calling." The call ended. No reassurance beyond procedure. No comfort beyond facts. I stood there long after the screen went dark. Denise hadn't argued. She hadn't pleaded. She hadn't tried to change my mind. She had gone around it. She had put 3 children into a taxi and sent them somewhere she hadn't bothered to confirm. Not to ask for help, to force it. I couldn't stop seeing them on that porch. The way Milo squared his shoulders when he thought someone was watching. The twins pressed close, rehearsing bravery like a trick they'd learned too young. My mind ran ahead, cruel and efficient. A door that never opened. A neighbor who didn't notice. A street that didn't care. I caught myself gripping the edge of the counter and forced my hand to relax. "This isn't yours," I told the empty room. The words steadied me. Not absolution. Accuracy. My phone lit up. Denise didn't wait for hello. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" I leaned against the wall. Let her spend her breath first. "They're questioning me like I'm a criminal." She pushed on. "You could have stopped this. I didn't put them in a taxi." A sharp inhale, the sound she made when she was about to pivot. "They're my kids," she snapped. "I decide what's safe." "You decided to ignore me. That's not the point." "It is." Her voice rose, then fractured. "You embarrassed me." "Good," I said, and felt the word land where it belonged. She rushed to fill the space. "You've always been dramatic. You could have just taken them. This never would have happened." I pictured the calendar I hadn't erased, the plans I'd kept, the no I hadn't softened. "This happened because you heard no and acted anyway." Silence, then a laugh without humor. "So now you're judging my parenting. I'm naming a fact." She went quiet. When she spoke again, it was flatter, colder. "You're supposed to help me. I'm supposed to keep them safe." Another pause. Longer. She recalculated, missed, tried again. "They're scared," she said. "Fix it." I closed my eyes, let the urge to rush in pass through without grabbing hold. "They're scared because you used them to corner me." Her breath hitched. Anger returned louder. "You're unbelievable." I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't apologize. When the line went dead, the room felt lighter. Not empty. Cleared. For the first time, the fear wasn't tangled with blame. I knew exactly where the responsibility belonged. And it wasn't with me. The next call came the following morning. A woman's voice this time. Measured. Unhurried. "Ms. Whitaker. My name is Vanessa Hale. I'm calling regarding the incident on Maple Street. I sat down before she finished the sentence. I live at that address now, she continued. I was the one who contacted the police. I pictured her standing in that doorway, calm enough to act, alert enough to know she had to. I didn't recognize the children, she said, and I couldn't leave them there. I'm grateful you didn't, I replied. She let that land before continuing. I work with Child Protective Services. I'm required to file a report when children are abandoned without supervision. No accusation. No edge. Just fact. I understand, I said. Another pause. Shorter. Almost surprised. The police report already flagged concerns, she added. My call simply confirmed them. I won't interfere. I needed to hear that she said quietly. Some families try to make this go away. I won't. She didn't thank me. She didn't need to. The call ended with the same professionalism it began with. Denise called minutes later. What did you tell her? Her voice was sharp, already defensive. I didn't call her. That's not what I asked. I didn't interfere. A scoff. You just sat back and let this happen. I stepped aside. That's worse. I stayed silent. Let her hear it. They're making this a big deal, she rushed on. Parenting classes, home visits. You could have explained. I did explain, I said, before you put them in that car. Her breathing grew uneven. She tried another angle. You're enjoying this. No. Then why aren't you fixing it because it isn't mine to fix? That stopped her. The power shifted in the quiet that followed. No yelling. No leverage left to pull. The system is involved now, I said. It moves whether we like it or not. She hung up without another word. I set the phone down and didn't reach for it again. For years, family loyalty had blurred responsibility, covered recklessness, softened consequences. Now it couldn't. One phone call had done what decades of enabling never did. It took the choice out of my hands and put it exactly where it belonged. Denise showed up unannounced 3 days later. She didn't knock. She pushed the door open like it still belonged to her. They're treating me like I did something wrong. Her eyes were red, not from crying, from fury. They're making me take classes, she went on pacing. Parenting classes, home visits. You let this happen. I stayed where I was, hands folded, spine straight. I didn't let anything happen. She laughed, sharp and brittle. You're unbelievable. You could have told them it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't. Her voice cracked. They asked the kids questions. Scared them. You scared them first. That stopped her stride. She turned slowly. Don't do that, she warned. Don't turn this on me. I'm not turning anything. I'm naming it. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then threw it onto the couch. Mom called. So did Aunt Carol. They all think you've gone too far. I nodded once. I expected that. They want you to talk to someone. Smooth this over. Explain that you didn't mean for it to escalate. I meant for my no to be heard. Her hands shook. You're choosing strangers over your own daughter. I'm choosing truth over habit. She sank into a chair, face folding inward. Tears came, then real this time. I didn't think they'd actually do anything, she whispered. I thought you'd cave. The words hung between us. Unprotected. I'm not your safety net, I said, and I won't teach them that ignoring no is acceptable. A knock sounded. Not urgent. Measured. A woman stood in the hallway, clipboard tucked to her chest. She introduced herself with a name and a calm voice, then turned to Denise. We'll be checking in weekly for now. Denise looked at me, eyes wide. Waiting. I didn't move. Didn't speak. The door closed behind the woman. The house felt smaller, clearer. Denise stood wiping her face. I'll never forgive you for this. I'm not asking you to. She left without another word. The phone rang later. Family. Friends. Advice wrapped in concern. I let it go to voicemail. For the first time, I didn't rush to contain the damage. I let it land where it belonged. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon, not urgent, not apologetic. "This is Vanessa Hale," the voice said. "I wanted to let you know the case has been closed." I sat down before my knees could decide otherwise. "The children are safe," she continued. "Your daughter completed the required course. Home visits will end this week. Thank you for telling me." There was a pause, brief and respectful. "You did the right thing by not interfering," she added. "That's not always easy for family." "I know." The line disconnected without ceremony. Denise didn't call that day, or the next, or the week after. When she finally did, her voice sounded different, quieter. "Careful the way people get when they realize their words have consequences. The kids are asking if they can come over," she said. "For dinner, just dinner." I let the silence breathe. "I'd like that," I replied. "As long as you're staying too." Another pause. Longer this time. "Okay." They arrived together. No rush, no bags packed for an overnight stay. Milo stayed close to her side. The twins hovered near the doorway, watching me like they were checking for cracks. "Hi," Grandma Jasmine said softly. I knelt to her level and opened my arms. She stepped in without hesitation. Dinner passed without assumptions. No glances at the clock. No plans spoken out loud on my behalf. When it was time to leave, Denise lingered by the door. "I'll text next time," she said, before making plans. I expect that I replied. She nodded once. No argument. No offense taken. After they left, the apartment stayed quiet. Not the brittle quiet that waits to be broken, the settled kind. Days went by without calls asking for favors disguised as emergencies. My calendar stayed intact. My evenings stayed mine. I missed the children when they weren't here. That hadn't changed. What had changed was the weight, the constant readiness, the unspoken obligation. Silence had replaced demand, and for the first time in years, silence didn't feel like abandonment. It felt earned. The gathering was small, intentional. No seating charts, no expectations hiding behind casseroles. Denise arrived with the children in daylight this time. Milo carried a board game under his arm. The twins ran ahead, shoes flashing, already arguing about who would sit next to me. I didn't correct them. I let their voices fill the room. "Grandma, watch this," Jordan said, already mid-motion. I watched. I clapped. I laughed when the tower fell and they blamed gravity instead of each other. Denise stayed near the doorway, at first hands, tucked into her sleeves. She didn't scan the counters for bags or search my calendar with her eyes. She waited. Dinner passed without negotiation, without glances exchanged over my head. When plates were cleared, Milo leaned in close. "Can we come back soon?" "Soon," I said, and meant it. As the evening thinned, Denise approached the sink beside me. Her voice was casual, careful. "I have a work thing next Friday," she said. "Just a few hours." I dried my hands, turned to face her fully. "I'm not available." The words came without weight, without armor, just truth. She didn't flinch. "Okay," she said. A nod followed. Not resignation, understanding. "I'll make other arrangements." The twins looked up, waiting for a cue that never came. No tension followed. No scramble to fill the space. Denise gathered their jackets. Milo paused at the door. "Bye, Grandma." "Bye, sweetheart." When they left, the apartment returned to its steady rhythm. Not empty, complete. I sat down and stayed there, noticing what didn't rush in to replace them. No guilt, no rehearsed explanations, no urge to call anyone back and soften the moment. Saying no had once felt like a risk, like a threat to everything I loved. Now it felt like the structure that held it all upright. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't punish. I didn't explain myself into smaller shapes. I simply chose myself and found there was still room for everyone else to stand.